Hey guys. Welcome. I can see there's a few people joining in. Just going to give a few moments for people to arrive. Perhaps, just give me a wave if the sound is all right and you can hear me okay. Lovely to see some familiar faces joining in. Awesome. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Emily. I was a yoga teacher at Rise Up last year, 2019. Yeah, last year. Time seems to be getting a bit screwy in my head these days. And now I'm coming live to you from my little beach shack in Christchurch, New Zealand. It's a bit of a grey morning here, so really good morning, good time for us to be doing some yoga and some movement together. I'm into about my third week of teaching yoga online, but it's, welcome guys, but it's the first time I'm using this particular platform, so hopefully we go okay. Awesome to see some waves, meaning that everything's working okay. Welcome. So cool to see some familiar people joining in. So the purpose of today is really just so that we can move, so that we can connect as a Rise Up Surf Familia and beyond. I think, usually yoga is always needed, right? Because of the busyness of life and all these different hats we need to wear all the time, and we're rushing around like crazy. And while for some of us that still is the case at the moment in quarantine, I think at the moment it's really around managing anxiety and being able to ground and be present during times that are really uncertain, and where for many of us, we're not too sure what's going to happen. We realize that we're not in control, and I think that yoga is an even more valid practice in these times. Really, really lovely that you are giving yourself some yoga this morning. Just wanted to also do a bit of a disclaimer before we start off that this class isn't ideal if you are pregnant, if you're expecting, particularly the poses we're going to start off on our backs, supine, and then the poses that will end in on our bellies. The standing poses and the flow sequence will be fine. So if you are pregnant or expecting, just know that some of what we're going to be doing today is contraindicated. So either modify, sit it out, take a little moment to set up your space. If you have a little candle, a little house plant, something to zhuzh up your yoga area, then go for it. And I won't be playing any music here on my end. Personally, I've found myself a little bit annoyed when I've sat in or when I've done other online yoga classes and the teachers play music on their end. The audio just doesn't really work. It sounds tinny, and I've found it a bit annoying. So for that reason, I'm not going to be playing any music here. If you want to play some yoga beats in your own space, now's a good time to get that going. Lovely to see some more familiar people joining in. And I think also, moving into this online space, it's more important than ever that I'm getting distracted by comments as they're coming up. It's more important than ever that you really give yourself permission to know that what I'm offering and guiding you through are options. Ultimately, you are your own guru, you know your body best. And particularly because I can't sort of get that visual feedback of how you're going through the class, it's even more important that you really take this as an opportunity for self-inquiry within your own body, and really know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So if in any doubt at all, then just modify or leave it out. Do not force yourself into something that is causing any pain or any negative sensation. That's not why we're practicing yoga. That permission that you're giving yourself, you want to up that a notch for this and for any online class, really. I will be doing our practice pretty prop free, again, just for ease. If you do have a blanket or a cushion somewhere at home that you can bring onto your carpet, onto your mat, then now's a good time to go and grab that as well. But otherwise, yeah, we'll be able to move through everything relatively safely, prop-free. And if anyone has any questions before we kick off, feel free to fire away. And otherwise, we will begin to make a start. So we're actually going to start lying down on the back today. So if you do have a blanket or a cushion, then just bring it to the top of your mat and then come down to lie. And just make yourself really comfortable wherever you are. Bring the knees together and the feet to the distance of your mat, or an imaginary distance of a yoga mat if you don't have a yoga mat. And we're just going to place one hand on the belly and one hand on the heart. And take a few moments just to welcome yourself to your mat, to sort of land in your space. And with one hand on the belly and one hand on the heart, begin to feel into where your breath is going, which part of your torso is rising. What tends to happen is that when we're anxious, we breathe more from the chest. We have this shallow breathing going on. And the deeper we pull the inhale breath, so the more we can bring that into the belly, then the slower we breathe. And the more nourishing each inhale is for all the little cells in the body. So with this tangible feedback of a hand on each, hand on the chest, hand on the belly, try and direct your breath so that your belly is rising a little bit more than your chest. And just stay with this belly breath for a few moments, feeling your hand rise and fall on top of the belly. Seeing if with each inhale you can expand that balloon in the belly a little bit more. And with each exhale, ground all the structures of the back down back onto your mat. And stay here for 5 more rounds of belly breathing. Hopefully now the hand on the belly fully moving a lot more than the hand on the chest. And then letting go of the belly breath and just allowing your natural breath to resume. From here we're going to release the hands and bring both of the soles of the feet just placed on your mat, knees bent. And we're going to draw the right knee into the chest and just clasp the fingers behind the right thigh. And then just going to start hinging from the knee. So just begin to wake up that knee joint. If where you're practicing from, like me, it's the morning. But even if you're winding down from your day, it's really important to give some love back to the joints as well as the muscles. And just being careful here that as you're extending the knee out, that you're not pulling through the back of the knee, so it's fine to keep a reasonable bend here. And then we'll leave the right leg extended up with the foot up towards the sole. The sole of the foot up towards the sky. Only had one coffee. And then take some ankle rolls here. Making sure you're taking both directions. Nice big ankle rolls. And then releasing the foot down. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So left thigh hands clasped behind the left thigh, and we're just going to take some nice soft knee hinges. And as we move throughout the practice today as well, we're not going to lock through the knee joints or the elbows, any of our joints for that matter. We always want to keep them soft. They kind of get enough strain as it is from daily life and other forms of exercise. So we want to just be very kind on them today. And then keeping the left leg extended up, taking some ankle rolls. And take them around the other direction. And then release the left leg down. So we're now going to bring both of the soles of the feet up. It doesn't matter if you bend your knees quite a bit here to create space. And then the hands, and we're going to rotate the wrists and the ankles together. And take those around the other way. And then come back down. So bring your feet down to rest on your mat for just a moment. Give the hips a little bit of a wiggle. We'll take some windscreen wiper legs. So allow both of the knees to fall over to each side. You want your feet to be about hip distance apart here for this to work. Any cracks you might hear through the hips are a really good sign. And then come back up to center. So from here we're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee and begin to bring the left foot closer in towards the body. Going to actively draw the right knee away from the body here. This is what's going to get us into a nice hip opener, and we want the toes of the right foot to be pointing up. So dorsiflexing the toes, knee is actively moving away from the torso, and then from here draw the left knee into the body, and you can either clasp behind the thigh, or if you have a lot of hip mobility, you can bring that clasp to the front of the shin. So yogi's choice here, you can play around with both, making sure the right toes keep pointing up. So we're staying really active through the right calf muscle. And perhaps taking a little rock from side to side, massaging through the low back as we're getting into our first hip opener of the day. Take a few more breaths on this side. And then release the hold of the hands, bring the leg back down, and just slowly transition over to the other side. So this time left ankle comes to cross on top of the right knee. And before we draw it in, point the left toes up towards, or sort of towards the sky or away from the body, depending on the angle of your foot, and actively draw the left knee away from the torso as well. Then from here, guide the right knee in and take either behind the thigh or in front of the shin. Keeping the toe pointing up and the right knee drawing away from the body to stay really active through this stretch. And if you organically start to sway from side to side like me, that's fine. Otherwise, enjoying some stillness. A few more breaths. And then releasing that grip behind the thigh, bringing both of the legs back down. And then from here, we're going to bring the arms out into a bit of a T shape, just at shoulder height. And then draw the knees in towards, actually we're not drawing them in towards the chest, we're keeping them at a 90-degree angle. So we're going to start to do some core activation work here before we move to take a seat and get onto our feet and flow. It's quite important through this sequence that we don't draw the knees up towards the body, because if we do, then we're actually losing the core activation, which is part of the intention of this little sequence. So try and keep that nice 90-degree angle with your knees. It's really helpful when you're teaching to a screen and you can look over and actually see what angle your legs are. Otherwise it's really hard, but try and gauge that. And so just with the neck in neutral, arms out down by the sides, take an inhale breath to ground down through the back body here, and then on the exhale we're going to slowly draw the knees over to the left. Now yogi's choice here whether you let the knees hover above the floor if you want a bit more, or you can bring them down to rest into a full supine twist. On the next inhale breath, draw those knees up to the midline. And exhale, we're going to bring them over to the other side. So we're moving through some gentle dynamic twisting here, getting the benefits of a spinal twist and also a little bit of gentle core work to wake up. Just continuing to move with the pace of your own breath. Really important here, guys, that you let the breath direct the movement and not the other way around. This is where yoga is different to your standard workout and other forms of exercise. Imagine that your breath is really in the driving seat here and the movement is just along for the ride. So exhale to twist over, inhale to draw back up to center, and as you bring the knees over to each side, make sure that the opposite shoulder is still grounding down into the floor. So the back body is not moving. The back body is really solid. It's really grounded, with the low body doing the work. And we'll do about 3 or 4 more on each side here, just at your own pace. Again, this being an example of less being more, and the slower that you work through this, the greater benefit you'll potentially get. Inhale to center, exhale, knees come over, either resting down or hovering off the ground. I find I also start to shimmy further down my mat as I do this. I don't know why. If this is happening for you, then try and shift back up a little bit. Staying really grounded through the shoulders. Just 1 more on each side. And then next time you come back up to center, give the knees a big hug in towards the chest. Come to take hold of either hands if you can, and just rock from side to side here. And then with the feet back on the floor, just adjust your position of your back. Perhaps you've slid off your blanket or your cushion. So just readjust your supine position. And we'll bring the knees back up. And on the inhale breath, begin to draw the knees away from the body. So the tailbone's coming down to meet the mat. Exhale, draw the knees in towards the chest. Just giving a little bit of love to our low back before we do some more core work. Inhale, knees come out. Exhale, draw them in, tailbone curls up off the mat. And just continuing here once again, Apanasana, this simple union of breath and movement, is a good opportunity to make sure that the breath and the movement is in sync. It's really important, I think, for a for a dynamic class, for a flow class, for anything where we're doing these dynamic movements. So it's good to start off with the basics, to just really tune into this beautiful harmony of the breath and movement. Take one last little hug here if you wish, and then from here we're going to set up with hands down by the sides. Once again, bring your legs up to that nice 90-degree bend. See, I instinctively bring them closer. It's really cool having that camera feedback. And we're going to stay active through the calves as well, so keeping the toes pointed up towards the ceiling. On the inhale breath, ground down through the arms, the shoulders, all the muscles of the back, the spine. And then on the exhale breath, we're going to extend the right heel down long and hover the heel above the floor if you can. Inhale to come back up to center, keeping 90 degrees. Again, as soon as we do this, we're actually losing the core activation. So make sure you're really keeping that 90-degree angle. On the next exhale breath, we're going to extend the alternate leg out, point the toe up towards the sky, and hover the heel off the floor. Inhale back to center. We'll do about 10 rounds here. And again, just really following the pace of your own breath, knowing that there's no rush. Inhale back to center. Exhale, extend the leg out. If this is niggly on your low back, then you can bring the leg to rest down onto the floor. But if you don't have any lower back issues, then I invite you to let the heels hover and really powering up through the core. So even though the legs are doing the movement, this is the muscle group here that is enabling it and really powering on. We're about halfway through. Keeping the toes flexed up towards the sky. One more on each side. Come back to center and then give yourself a really big hug here. Don't hold back. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Perhaps take some circles with both of the knees going in the same direction. Really massaging through the sacrum, the low back. And then taking those knees the opposite direction. Nice big circles. And then perhaps here taking some jellyfish legs. So on the inhale breath, we'll extend the knees away and then allow them to fall wide open at the end of that inhale breath. Exhale to draw the knees back to the body. So now the knees are going in opposite directions. And just imagine yourself like a happy little jellyfish in the ocean. And then take your jellyfish circles in the opposite direction. And then come back up to center. So from here, yogis, bringing the hands behind the thighs. Going to just begin to get a bit of momentum so that we can rock and roll up to a seated position. If this doesn't work for you, you can also roll over to one side and then come to find your comfortable seat. Cool, we're still live. Good, looks like it. Great. I do take pauses just to drink water. I drink a lot of water. Those of you who know me will know that. So obviously pause and do whatever you need to do at home to be completely good in your space. So from here, from our comfortable seat, setting up for Baddha Konasana or bound ankle pose. So bring the soles of your feet together. And we want to first of all ground down through the sit bones. So it might mean shuffling from side to side and really feeling that connection of your seat to the earth. Going to actively press the soles of the feet together, and don't worry too much about bringing your heels all the way in. It doesn't actually matter. What does matter though is that your knees are feeling comfortable and safe. Again, any pain in the knees through any yoga poses you want to ease off a little bit and modify or leave it out. So from here, just with the hands placed lightly on the ankles, we don't need to sort of wrap the hands around the feet or anything like that. Inhale to extend long through the spine. And on the exhale breath, we're going to begin to hinge from the hips. So it's quite important here, actually with any forward fold poses, that we get this anterior tilt of the pelvis, which is giving us the benefit of the shape. If I just round my back and do this, nothing's stretching and I'm not getting anything out of it. So as you hinge forward, try and make that hinge from your hip joints. So it's almost like we're wanting to draw the lower belly, the belly button, and the bottom of the ribs down towards the feet and the floor, as opposed to the head and the chest. And come forward just to a degree where you can really feel your hips, your inner adductor muscles, all of this really turning on. And once you've found that sweet spot, hold it and breathe into it for about 10 rounds. Just bringing the drishti, the gaze, to somewhere in front of you. You might want to even close down the eyes here. Make sure that the shoulder blades are drawing back towards one another, that there's lots of space between the shoulders and the ears. Keeping a long line of energy from the tailbone, from the very base of the spine, all the way up through the back of the head, the neck. And imagine like as if there was an imaginary puppet string coming out from the crown of your head, nice and long, even though you're coming forward. Just a few more breaths. Perhaps on these last couple of exhales, coming further forward if there's space there through your hips. And then inhale to come back up to center. Draw the knees up and take a cosmic egg, aka draw the knees into the body. Wrap your hands around, draw the chin in towards the chest and release through the back. Here you can really let your back round. And then release that. So if you have a blanket or cushion or anything on your mat space, just remove it. And we're going to come around to tabletop. So in tabletop, we want to make sure that the wrists are directly underneath the shoulders, and make two really nice big starfish with your hands. So really grounding down through the palms, spreading the fingers wide, and just making sure also that your elbows are soft. So again, we don't want to lock through the elbow joint, keeping a little bit of buoyancy, a little bit of softness. Draw the shoulder blades in towards one another. Also check that your knees are underneath the hips and that your knees are about hip distance apart. So from here, we'll begin to inhale and draw the tailbone up. Move into some Betalasana cat-cow breaths. Bring your gaze just to the front of your mat, and then exhale. Bring the tailbone down, round through the spine, each vertebra, with the head dropping last. And again, as we did when we were in Apanasana on our backs, make sure that the breath is guiding the movement here. Exhale to curl down through the tailbone. Try and lead the movement from the tailbone with the rest of the spine following in succession. And just working through your own rounds here. Also on the inhale breath, be wary to not overextend through the neck by doing this. It's really dodgy. Just keep that nice line of energy with the chin down. Two more. And then bringing your spine back to neutral, back to the center. So I'm going to do a little bit more core work here. So bring the left hand slightly in towards the center of your mat, and you almost want to draw that hand a little bit further back in towards your legs as well, just to set you up with stability here. So we're coming into what I call the Superman variation of Betalasana. So on the inhale breath, we're going to ground down through the palm and through the right knee. And on the exhale breath, we're going to begin to extend the right hand forward and draw the left heel back. Now once again, we're going to move dynamically here. So tuck your tailbone in, draw in through the core, power up through that left arm, and then on the inhale breath, curl the right hand, left leg in, exhale to extend out, power up through the core. And imagine here, as you move through these shapes, that on the exhale breath, if you had a cup of tea placed on your lower back, on your sacrum, that it wouldn't spill. So we're trying to keep the hips square. And once again, the slower you do this, the more in coordination with your breath, the better. We'll do two more on this side, nice and slow. Remembering that cup of tea on your back. And then come back to center and come back to sit on your heels, and we'll take a little toe squat before we move over into the other side. So curl the toes underneath and then come to sit back on your heels, and just really feel the activation happening through the sole of the foot. So hopefully you're feeling that stretch through the back of the toes and the feet. And we'll hold here for 5 breaths. This can be really intense if you've never done a toe squat before. Once again, always trying to find that sweet spot of sensation and activation, but not pain. Send in those loving thoughts right to the toes and the soles of the feet. They get so overlooked, and we owe so much to them, really. Just one more breath here. And then come back to find your tabletop. So now just take your time again to set up your stable base through tabletop, and we're going to guide the right hand a little bit further towards the center this time. Draw the tailbone down and kind of turn your core muscles on by, it's almost like you're trying to suck the belly button up towards the spine. And it's a very subtle movement, but hopefully you can sort of feel this activation happening. Bring the right hand a little bit closer towards you if you need. Remember, soft elbow. Inhale to stay right here. And then on the exhale breath, begin to extend the left arm and the right leg back, toes pointing down. Inhale to draw it in. Exhale to come out. And we'll do 5 on this side. Keeping those hips really square, drawing the shoulder blades in towards one another. I think that's 4. Let's go for one more. Don't you hate it when the yoga teacher loses count? And then come back to center, and come back just to sit on your heels and shake the arms out. Perhaps clasp them behind the back and stretch out. Taking also some neck rolls. So we're going to draw the chin down in towards the chest, and then draw some U shapes. So as if you had a little piece of chalk at the very end of your chin, draw it down and then over to each shoulder. Releasing through the neck, muscles of the upper back. Don't know about you guys, but I'm spending a lot of time sitting at the moment in my other job, working from home, desk bound. This is a really good little exercise that you can do to release through a lot of the upper back. Doesn't look like much, but if you have tightness in that area, it really releases it. And then from here, going to come back to tabletop. And so from here we're going to step, or walk rather, the hands a little bit further forward in front of where they were under the shoulders. Once again, starfish hands, really ground down through each of the fingers, through the palms. Curl the back toes underneath. And on the next in-breath, we're going to lift the knees and raise the hips into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. First one for the day. So make sure that there's again softness through the elbows, release through the head, let the head dangle. Feet are still hip distance apart, and we're still keeping softness through the knees. So don't lock through the knee joints. Perhaps stepping out your dog, bringing alternate heels to the back of your mat or your carpet. And the importance here in down dog is not to get the heels down to the floor, but it's really to draw the hips up. So we're really stretching through all the muscles in the backs of the legs and muscles of the back, powering through the arms. Hold it for a couple more breaths here. Yogi's choice to always come down and take a child's pose like so. If through our flow sequence down dog is not working for you today, then you can absolutely do that. And we're going to begin to slowly walk the feet up towards the hands. Really, really slowly. No rush to get there. And then once we get to the top of the mat, release in Uttanasana, standing forward fold. So feet are hip distance apart. I'm going to scooch backwards. This is where it's going to get interesting if I just like my head gets cut off and I'm not on the screen anymore. So feet are hip distance apart, softness through the knees. And then again, we're hinging from the hips. And you want to get this sensation of the spine, water falling out of the pelvis. Hands can either dangle here, might want to take hold of opposite elbows. Make sure again that you're releasing through the neck. This is a great decompressor for the lower back. We'll just spend 3 more breaths here. Ground down through the feet and bring the awareness to where the weight is through the soles of the feet. Is it happening more in the heels, more in the balls of the feet? Try and even out that weight distribution. And then on the next inhale, yogis, begin to slowly unravel. Bend through the knees a little bit more so you can come up really slowly and safely here, vertebra by vertebra. And then once you're here, take some nice big shoulder rolls. Forwards and backwards. And so from Tadasana Mountain Pose, we want to really engage through the feet now that we're in our sort of flow and standing sequence. So lift your toes up and spread them out. Try and get them as wide as you can and then ground them back down onto your mat. So we're really feeling this connection through particularly the big toe, the little toe and the heel. We've got like this tripod of strength and stability happening through the feet. I always recommend feet being hip distance apart. Again, it just gives really nice pelvic stability. A little bit of softness through the knees always. I know I talk about it a lot, but there's a reason for it. And we're drawing the tailbone down, bringing the lower belly up, absorbing the ribs, and then relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. So this is our Tadasana Mountain Pose. It's the foundation of all of our standing poses. So on the next inhale breath, we're going to swoop the arms up. Exhale, reverse swan dive, come back down to Uttanasana, standing forward fold. On the inhale breath, hands come onto the shins and we shine the heart forward. Length through the back of the neck. Exhale to come down to Uttanasana once again. On the inhale, draw the arms around, draw the arms up. And here at the top, we're going to take hold of the right wrist and exhale into a side body stretch. Length through the right side of the body. Inhale up to center. Exhale, take hold of the left and stretch over. Inhale to come up to center. And on the exhale breath, we're going to take Utkatasana, chair pose. So draw your sit bones down and imagine a long line of energy from the base of your tailbone going all the way up your spine through the back of the neck and shining through the fingertips. Hold it for 1 breath here. And on the exhale breath, release, coming back up to Tadasana. So we'll move through that sequence 2 more times. 1 breath per movement. Doesn't matter if my cues don't match your breath. What I would like you to do is really tune in to your own breath sequence. So taking it once again, inhaling to come up. Exhaling to come down, making sure the feet are hip distance apart. Inhale, hands on the shins, chest opens towards the front. Draw the shoulder blades back in towards one another. Exhale down. Inhale, sweep the hands around the body, up towards the sky. Take hold of the right wrist and on the exhale, side body stretch. Staying nice and open through the chest so we're not collapsing. Inhale up to center. And exhale, other side. Inhale, draw the fingertips up. And then on the exhale, start to bend the knees and take your seat in your imaginary chair, Utkatasana. And hold it for 1. Inhale, reach through the fingertips. And then exhale to release it. 1 more round. Hands onto the shins. Inhale to shine the heart forward. Exhale down. Inhale, draw the hands all the way up, all the way around. Exhale, take the right wrist and stretch over. Inhale, center. Exhale over. Inhale, center. Exhale, take your imaginary chair, Utkatasana, draw down and tuck the tailbone under a little bit so that we're again engaging through the core muscles. And exhale to release. So we're going to add on a little bit more to those half sun salutations, make them full sun salutations. And if at any point you need to come down into a child's pose, if you're just not feeling quite so flowy right now, once again, give yourself permission. These are just offerings, take what you want and leave the rest aside. So from our Tadasana pose, inhale, draw the arms up. Exhale, reverse swan dive, come all the way down, back to Uttanasana. On the inhale breath, hands on the shins, shine the heart forward. Exhale, bring the fingertips down, and we're going to step the right foot all the way back into a nice big lunge stance. Bring the knee down to the mat, let the top of your foot rest. Just adjust your front foot, runner's lunge, and then bring the hands onto the hips, and we sit up for Ardha Anjaneyasana, crescent lunge. So if you have any knee issues, you can also bring that underneath the right knee, especially if you're practicing on a hard floor. That's not great for knees. Draw the tailbone down, bring the lower belly up off the front thigh, and we want to check as we move through lunges today that you're not tracking the left knee over the ankle. Again, we want to keep this solid 90-degree angle here. And we're almost imagining here in half lunge like we're squeezing an imaginary block in between the legs, even though it would be a really strangely shaped block. Just to gain this pelvic stability, core strength, turn the right quad muscle on, and then inhale to bring the arms up. Exhale, we're going to float the fingertips forward, curl the back toe underneath, bring the knee up, and then we're walking or stepping the front foot back to meet its friend. Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog for 1. On the next inhale, roll forward to a high plank, keep softness through the elbows. Also another option is to bring the knees down like so. Yogi's choice. Power through the arms, suck the belly button up towards the spine. And on the exhale breath, keeping the elbows close to the body, lowering all the way down, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, hands next to the ribs, coming up for baby or full cobra. Exhale to curl the toes underneath, draw the hips back, and we're coming up to down dog for 5. On the next inhale breath, guide the right heel up towards the sky, 3-legged dog. And then exhale, draw that knee in towards the chest as gracefully as possible while powering through the arms, not stepping it through yet. Inhale to draw it back out. Exhale, draw it in. We'll only do one more. Inhale, 3-legged dog. And exhale, we're going to draw the knee in and walk, step, or guide your foot up in between the hands. Give it a little help if it needs. Keep the back knee lifted this time. Open through the chest, runner's lunge, and then come up to take full Anjaneyasana. And just take your time here to shuffle your stance so that you're feeling balanced. Take a little bounce through the pelvis, bending through the front knee, tailbones drawing down, heels lifting up, and we're powering through the back leg. And then inhale to draw the arms up. And we'll just pause here for a few breaths. Inhale, draw the fingertips up. And then exhale, float them forward. Back foot comes up to meet the front foot. Exhale to release in Uttanasana. On the inhale breath, draw the arms all the way around. All the way up. Exhale, palms to heart center. So just take a minute here to perhaps close down the eyes. Notice any changes that are happening, particularly around the torso, the core area. You might be feeling a little bit of fire, a little bit of activation. And just settle into the breath for a couple of rounds. Also a good time to take a sip of water before we move on to the other side. So from Tadasana, mountain pose, Once again, moving through your own breath cycles. We'll inhale to draw the arms up. Exhale down to Uttanasana. Inhale, hands come onto the shins, and we'll shine the chest forward, flat through the lower back. Exhale, come down, and now we're going to walk or step the left foot all the way to the back of the mat. Nice big lunge stance. Bring the knee down, flatten the top of the foot. Bring the hands onto the hips and set up for runner's lunge. Sorry, not runner's lunge, crescent lunge. Draw the tailbone down. I'm actually just going to stay where you are. Pull the curtain. So once again, that sort of pelvic core engagement. Tailbone down, lower belly's lifting up off the front thigh. Turning on the left quad muscle. And then from here, bringing the arms in. And on the exhale breath guide, the palms back to heart center. We'll do 4 rounds. Keep the left quad muscle active here. And then exhale, float the hands down back to the mat, bending through the knee. We're going to curl the back toe underneath, lift the knee up, and then the front foot comes to meet its friend, Adho Mukha Svanasana for 1. Exhale, roll forward either to a high plank or knees on the mat, yogi's choice. Hold here. Suck the belly button up towards the spine. And then exhale, bending the elbows, keeping them close to the body as we lower all the way down. Inhale, up to baby or full cobra. Exhale, toes curl underneath, draw the hips back. Once again, come to find your down dog for 5 breaths. Keep drawing the hips up. And on the next inhale breath, begin to guide the left heel up towards the sky, 3-legged dog, keeping the hips square. Exhale, draw the knee in towards the chest. Keep the belly button moving up towards the spine. Inhale, back out to 3-legged dog. Exhale, draw the knee in. And 1 more. This time walking, stepping, or helping the left foot to get up in between the hands. Keep the back knee raised and really strong. Bring the hands onto the hips. Bend through the front knee. Make sure it's not tracking over the ankle. Tailbone down. And settle into full lunge here for a handful of breaths. If you want, you can bring the arms up. Keeping the shoulders away from the ears. And exhale to float the fingers forward. We're now going to walk, step the back foot up towards the front and release forward Uttanasana. Inhale to draw the hands all the way around. And then exhale the palms to heart center. So we'll take a triangle Trikonasana pose here. So I want you to all step the left foot back. And we want to keep heel to heel alignment. So front toes are tracking forward. Back toes are in at a 45-degree angle. And we're not quite as wide as we were in our lunge stance, or even as wide as we'd go for a warrior. Hands on the hips initially. Then going to open up the arms through the chest. So this front knee is bent, but again, I'm not locking the knee. I'm keeping it a little bit soft. And then we'll inhale to draw the fingers out and come down to find Trikonasana. I'm not mirroring you. Take your left hand and draw it across the chest, so then you can open out. So again, in Trikonasana, what's more important here is that we're opening through the chest rather than coming down to find the floor. If you've got that space, fantastic, but know that if you're bringing the hand down to the shin, and that allows you to get that heart opening in a more effective way, then that is fine. And hold here for a few more breaths. We're also drawing the right hip back towards the back heel. So it's almost like a little bit of a twist. And then slowly inhale to rise up. Hands on the hips. Swivel the front toes forward. We're now going to take a wide-legged forward bend, so you want to just shuffle your stance so that both of the toes are pointing forward. You're almost a little bit pigeon-toed. Softness through the knees. Inhale long through the spine. And exhale, come to find your wide-legged forward bend, Prasarita Padottanasana. I always hear cracks in my hips when I come down to this shape, and it feels really good. Just feel into how this is on your pelvis. You might also like to rock from side to side, and the hands can either come to take hold of the elbows, graze the floor. If your hands do reach the floor here, make sure the fingers are coming back in alignment with the toes, and just again checking the weight distribution through the feet. Bring the hands back onto the hips, bend through the knees, and on the next inhale we're going to raise the body up and just take that triangle Trikonasana shape on the other side. So this time the left toes are pointing out, are pointing forward, back toes 45 degrees, heel to heel alignment, both of the knees are relatively straight, and we are inhaling to bring the arms out. Exhale to come down. Once again, knowing that if you get to the floor, fantastic, but the main objective here is opening through the chest. Draw the left hip back and hold for a handful of breaths. Bringing the drishti, the gaze, either onto your bottom hand, maybe straight in front of you. Open through the chest. And then bring the top hand onto the hip. A little bit of a bend through the knee as we come up. And then from here we're just going to shuffle the feet back together, and from the top of the mat take a half sun salute as we transition down. So inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, reverse swan dive, softness through the knees. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fingers come down. We're stepping the right and the left foot back. Last transitional downward facing dog. And then bring the knees down, and we're going to take the knees nice and wide to the outer edge of the mat. Toes come together. Draw the hips back and find your child's pose. Just allowing the body to reground. Sending the breath to the back body. So imagine here in child's pose that the whole back of your rib cage, the spine, it's all expanding on the inhale. Enjoying the breath here. And then lift the head up, bring the hands close towards the body, and we're going to come down onto the belly. So just making your way down onto your belly. Bring the hands down by the sides, turn the head off over to one side, and just totally let go here for a moment. So the next shape before we do Shavasana is going to be Shalabhasana, or locust pose. It's a really good one for those of us who do surf, as it strengthens, sends love to all the muscles in the back body, the erector spinae muscles along either side of the spine. And it's actually also what we do when we're paddling, so it's a good one to incorporate into your practice. So on the inhale breath, we're going to lift the head up, lift the shoulders away from the mat. Pelvis, legs are still grounded down. And on the exhale breath, begin to raise the heels up, draw the fingertips down towards the heels, and lengthen through the whole back of the body. So think length here rather than height. We are lifting up, but we're really wanting to lengthen, so drawing the shoulders away from the ears. Once again, thinking of space in the back of your neck. And hold. Bringing the tailbone down so as to protect the lower back and not over compress that area. And then exhale, bring everything down, stack the hands one on top of the other, and turn the head off to one side. And from here, yogis, we're simply going to roll over and set up for Shavasana. So if you do have a blanket or a cushion, just pop it under your head. And setting up to be completely comfortable for our last few moments. You might want to bring the knees bent and the knees touching together, really nice on the lower back, or just stretching the body out. Palms facing up or down, whatever works. And just taking a moment here to settle back down. Just allowing the muscles, the bones, the joints, the ligaments, and the energetic body to reap the benefits of what we've done. Using the breath as an anchor. Just bringing the awareness to your inhale and your exhale as it's naturally flowing. We'll take 10 full breaths here. And inviting some gentle movement back to your fingertips, to your toes, perhaps moving the head from side to side. Starting to draw the knees in towards the chest. Give yourself one last hug. We'll come back to a comfortable seat. Checking that we're still alive. So just coming to find your comfortable seat, and with the eyes closed here, bringing the palms to heart center, drawing them into the chest in Anjali Mudra. Bow the chin down towards the chest and just take this moment to express gratitude for yourself and your efforts to come to your mat. I'm extremely grateful to reconnect with this amazing community that is the Rise Up So Familia. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you can take a piece of this practice off into the rest of your Easter weekend. The love and light in me bows to the love and light in each one of you. Namaste. So please, yogis, take your time moving off your mat. If anyone has any questions, let me know. I'm going to come back up to the screen now just to say hey. Great. Also, if you have enjoyed today's class or any of the other Rise Up yoga classes throughout the week, head to the Rise Up link in their bio. There's this amazing charity NGO called Rise Up Kids International. Thank you guys. Rise Up Kids International, which is in the local village of Aceredores in northern Nicaragua, right near the Rise Up Surf Retreat. And this project is helping out kids in that local community, particularly at the moment during this pandemic and everything that's happening. Even a small donation would go a really long way. So if you would like to make an offering, no matter how small, for today's class, please head to the link in the Rise Up bio.